Hello and welcome to the Horti-Culturalists. I'm Stephen Ryan.
And I'm Matthew Lucas. And Mr. Ryan, is that a bromeliad I see before me, or are you pleased to see me?
It is definitely a bromeliad.
Yep.
And they're one of those groups of plants that people end up they're stuck on walls or in pots on the veranda or what have you. Attractive plants, but when they're grown outside their habitat at your home, they don't look natural. Wherever you use them, they tend to be, a pot plant or in a hanging basket or whatever.
Yep.
But there are ways and means in which you can plant them in your garden, or use them in your garden, I should say, that is going to simulate something more like their natural habitat. And that is what I want to show people today.
Aha! Lead on.
Let's go.
Right. Take me to your bromeliads, Mr. Ryan.
All right. And here they are, the ones I prepared earlier.
Aha! Cunning.
Yes.
Ooh, parrots are very noisy today.
They are. This is a Chinese fan palm, and it's ideal for our purposes. It has a wonderful sort of fibrous bark that you can pull back.
It really does.
And it's ideal for epiphytic plants because you can poke them in, and we'll show how to do that in a minute, but it's really, really simple. And I've got a range of bromeliads here, including a reasonably cold hardy tillandsia at the bottom.
Yes.
And I've also got some little native Dendrobium orchids that I've installed into the side of the trunk. And this is the sort of thing that actually replicates their natural habitat. It's the sort of thing that they would have grown on in the wild.
And this is particularly furry, the trunk of this plant. Now, what's the Latin name of this, Mr.
This
Ryan?
is Trachycarpus fortunei. So
Trachycarpus fortunei. Fortunei after Mr. Fortune, the great plant hunter.
Yes, Robert Fortune was fortunate, in fact, because he spent
his life and discovery.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time in China and other surrounding countries discovering lots and lots of plants, and many of them were named in honour of him. So that's what I aspire towards one day. Who knows?
There's a dahlia named after you, though, Mr. Ryan. I've heard on the grapevine.
Yeah, there is a dahlia, but there's something about having a wild plant named after you as opposed to a man-made hybrid. There's a difference. So so I haven't had one of those yet. Anyhow, so this is what our plan is for today, to show people how to use their already existing, hopefully, fan palm in their garden.
Which is a brilliant idea. Okay, well, let's have a closer look.
Why not?
Okay, Mr. Ryan, here is our furry trunked
Trachycarpus fortunei.
Trachycarpus fortunei. Oh my goodness, Trachycarpus. That sounds like
something medical.
You've had your throat open. Anyway, it is a beautiful palm, but enough about that. Firstly, I love what you've done. I think these just look beautiful. Should we just explain, just in case, the nature of an epiphytic plant?
Probably a good idea, actually.
Yes.
Epiphytes are plants that use their roots mainly for anchorage, and they grip onto branches or sides of trees, often growing in the moss as well, that will form in sort of tropical countries and things. And so they really inhabit the higher levels, the upper stories of canopies and things, where they're safe from browsers, and they can...
Occasional shoppers like us.
Yes, occasional shoppers, yes. And so all we're trying to do really is put it into a habitat that is exactly the same as it would have in the wild. So easy as that.
Replicating their natural environment.
Yep.
Okay.
The first thing you've got to do is check that these leaf bases are still actually sound or not. That one there's gone all floppy, so it's actually probably not a good one to work with. But as here we go. There's one there's nice and firm still.
So a firm anchor, given that, are these, as the trunk matures, are these going to fall off?
Yeah, they will. Yes,
they off in my hand.
Yes, they will. Down at the base of the trunk, slowly the trunk will go bare, but it takes many, many years, and so in the meantime I'll have a lot of fun with my bromeliads up in the top of the
And they do look fantastic anyway. But
yes. So we found one that's nice and firm, and then it's just a matter of poking your bromeliad in behind the leaf base, like so. Has to stand upwards.
Okay. And in terms of the material you're going to put in, anything you need to bear in mind? Should it have, this has some roots?
Yeah, it's got some roots on it. Bromeliads don't actually need very much root system at all. You can, as long as they've got a stem base on them, you can use them. But remember that when a bromeliad is flowered, that flowered rosette dies eventually. So you do need to make sure you've got younger rosettes that then have the potential to go on and produce more rosettes.
And that's how it produces. It produces a pup from the side.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that's where it goes on. Now, This probably will fall out in the next windstorm if we don't actually anchor it some way.
Yeah.
And I like this stretchy nylon material.
You're looking like a bad Netflix series there.
Yeah, sorry, but anyhow, this stuff is really good because it's stretchy, so it's not going to cut into the stem of the plant. Oh, and that's another thing. Palm trees' trunks don't expand, so you're not going to cause any issues to the palm tree. So it's not like a classical broadleaf tree where the trunk gets wider and wider as the years go by. The width of this trunk will always stay basically like this.
That I never knew. I mean, now you've said it, it makes obvious sense, but wow, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all we need to do is I need to
strap it on.
Strap it on, basically. Now, you need to hold it in a place so that it's reasonably firm.
Yeah.
So it needs to be above the crowns just a little bit.
Yeah.
And you hold them so that the crowns are still standing in a basically upright direction.
Yeah.
And then you do a proper reef knot, not a granny knot, so that it won't slip. And voila. And then all you have to do is you go around the trunk and you hide as much of your net or your string as possible down inside the fibre. And so all you're going to see for the time being is this little bit across the front.
I see.
But as the bromeliad produces pups, they will come up and around, and so you actually won't see any of your infrastructure at all in time.
And how long would you leave the thread in place to anchor it?
Look, it depends on the bromeliad. I mean, the orchids, I've taken it away now because their root system's grown quite well through the trunk.
Yeah.
Some of the bromeliads actually get quite heavy on the plant, so they could stay there permanently, really, and they'll last for years. The nylon will stay firm for a long time.
Now, we don't want to harm any animals in this process or plants. Does this affect the palm tree in any way in terms of its nutrient capacity? I mean, how are these plants feeding themselves?
Well, they feed off the nutrients in the air, bird droppings and sundry other things. They don't, in fact, live on the, they live on the tree but not from the tree.
So they're not parasitical?
No, so they're not taking anything out of the palm tree at all.
Yeah.
So it's just a vehicle for which they can sort of sit. And so that's how it works.
Now, so here, this is an Australian Dendrobium, Kingianum, I think.
Yes, it is. Yes, well done.
Impressed?
Yeah, I am, highly.
And is this kind of their natural habitat as well?
Yes, they would grow on the sort of branches of trees in the wild. There's sort of
lots of orchids, I suppose.
Well, yes, not just the dendrobiums. In fact, orchids have become something of an expert in finding niches in habitat.
Yeah,
and so certainly growing as an epiphyte, or dare I throw in the term lithophytes, as in plants that grow on the sides of rocks. And many of the bromeliads do that too. You'll see them just anchoring themselves on the side of rocks in the wild.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Because, you know, as a gardener, you think, I've got to give it food and love, but no, so you just leave these. Yeah,
you leave them. I will give them a little bit of water periodically because the trunk can be quite dry. With the bromeliads, I'll try and fill their rosettes with water, but I don't go out of my way to water on a really regular basis. It'll be, you know, one of those things, if I'm out watering the garden, I'll give that a bit of a squirt down as well. A few times a summer is probably all that's needed, and they'll get anything they want the rest of the year. They're in the semi-shade under the canopy of the palm, so they're not going to be out in hot sun.
Protected from heavy rain, I guess, because of the canopy.
And the frost as well.
I notice here that this bromeliad has got lots of pups. We'll come and have a look at this one.
Yeah.
And that this dendrobium has sent up new shoots too. So they're clearly very happy.
They are. They're anchored nicely onto the palm tree. And dare I say, it's one of those things that people will get used to with me is I can't see any reason for wasting space.
No.
So if
let's not waste space.
Yeah. So if there's something I can do with something to grow a plant in an unexpected way or in an unexpected part of the garden, I will do it.
Okay. And I've just noticed here is the tillandsia. We're going to come and have a closer look at that because I have questions for you.
Uh-oh.
Okay, time for us to get down and dirty. Now, I noticed that there's a tillandsia growing here. They're very fashionable at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, but you tend to buy them on a little piece of cork that's been glued on.
So this is my thing. I love them as an idea because they're just such a bizarre plant, the air plant, but you know, they're not. I, Mr. Ryan, do not have a Chinese fan palm in my front garden.
Well, shame on you.
Shame on me. But I would love tillandsias because some of them are quite extraordinary, but I don't like them glued on to a piece of bark or whatever and just hung up. I feel it looks unnatural. What are some other options then for growing this if I don't have a fibrous trunked palm tree to hand?
Well, in fact, you probably can go to your nursery and buy a fibrously lined hanging basket. And that can work in exactly the same way.
Aha.
Just poke them through the fibre of the basket and you could have your tillandsias growing all the way around a basket.
That is genius. And also, because in a hanging basket, the basket bit is often a bit unattractive.
Yeah.
But what about the moisture in the soil? Is that going to be too wet for it?
Shouldn't be. I mean, we do have to water our hanging baskets on a very regular basis anyway, to keep moisture in them for the main plant that would be there. Yeah. And because most of their, well, they hardly have any roots to speak of, but most of their attachment will only be on that sort of fibrous layer that's in the base of your basket.
It shouldn't be too much of an overwatering.
No, I shouldn't think so.
What a great idea. I am going to go and try that right now.
Wow, well done.
Off I go. Mr. Ryan, that was a fantastic how-to. All you need is scissors, string, a fibrous trunked palm tree in your front garden and some epiphytes and you're off.
Yeah, the palm might be the hardest bit, you know.
It really will, but it's such a great idea, and I love the idea that you can modify that for a hanging basket, which is basically the same thing, because that is coconut fibre.
Exactly.
So, goodness, I've only just realised this.
Oh, goodness
It's a revelation.
Yes, life is moving forward and you're trying to keep up.
I know, I need to take a deep breath. But I guess the other question is, the other plant that has a similar trunk/stem would be a tree fern.
Ah, yes, but that opens up a whole new gamut of things. So there's a whole pile of plants that we can use and grow on the side of a tree fern in much the same way, but I would use slightly different species.
Ooh, we might just press pause on that, and maybe that is going to be another episode at some point. Yeah. Now, just to clarify, do you know the names of those bromeliads that you so cunningly inserted into the trunk of the Chinese wind palm?
I had a sense you were going to ask me that question, and unfortunately I don't.
What is it?
Oh, yeah, snuggaducias.
Snuggaducia.
Yes, they probably are. Yes, Bromeliadifolia. Yes, I don't actually know the names of most of them because they were given to me by friends. So they're one of those sort of things that come your way. You like them, you keep them, but
they survive.
They survive. And I've never really gone to any great effort to find out which species they are, which is probably something I should do.
I was going to say, shame on you.
Yeah, it is. It's sad. I mean, it's a revelation for people to realise I don't know everything.
Well, I just need a second to take that in as well.
So they're ones that I've been given. So, I mean, they're experimental plants in some ways because I'm not in an area where bromeliads are necessarily obvious plants to grow because we get quite a bit of frost in the winter and all that sort of stuff.
So to that point then, some bromeliads are more cold tolerant than others. We're in an area, we're in Melbourne, in Victoria, in Australia. Melbourne City doesn't get freezing, so most bromeliads can survive there. You do get light frosts, but yours seem as happy as I am.
Oh yeah, it's just a matter of getting the right varieties. And I have to say, if I was going to become a passionate bromeliad collector, and as I think I've said, I'm a bit of a horticultural tart, so it's unlikely to happen.
You spread your love thinly.
Yes, I do.
And widely.
But there are specialist groups out there that can help you a lot with plant IDs. They have swap tables. You can buy plants from different people in those sort of spheres. So find out where your local bromeliad society is what I would recommend.
And they could advise what would work in your climate. So in fact, what we might do is put the local society link down below for Victoria in Australia, and then wherever you are, try and find the same thing. And if your climate is similar, that you can grow them outdoors, have a go at this.
Yeah, there you go.
Very exciting, Mr. Ryan. What do you think we could do next week? How can you top that? Oh my goodness.
Well, we may not top it, but there'll always be something interesting to do. So that's the main thing about gardening.
True. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, do feel free to put them below.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to these questions.
Yes, and suggestions. Mr. Ryan will answer them all. I won't, because I'm the amateur in this duo. The laurel to the hardy, or the hardy to the laurel.
I'm not sure which way around it should be, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
We post every week, so do subscribe and hit like if you like and ask a question. Mr. Ryan will answer, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Exactly.
See you later.